There's been a little bit of a disturbing trend, at least for me, for quite some time within the show calf industry. I grew up showing cattle, and now my son's showing cattle, and this is something that's been going on for, like I said, a very a large, pretty long time, for a number of years here. Um, and it's talking about mainly, I'm mainly talking about heifers, but it kind of goes back to some of the steers as well. Um, we're trying to teach kids, within the show, and then by showing, we're trying to teach these kids a lot about the industry of the cattle industry itself. But the problem is we're not doing that in a very accurate light, and we haven't been for a number of years. This dates back to when I was showing, and I'm guessing probably ways beyond when I was even showing, and still pretty relevant to today. And I thought maybe over the years that was a trend that would eventually kind of fade away eventually, but it still hasn't. And it's been going on for at least 20 years, and we're talking a whole generation of this happening. And the biggest thing, we're trying to teach these kids about the actual industry, but we're teaching them false. We're teaching them lies. We're trying to fatten heifers like market steers for show because they look better. But that really doesn't make sense in the practical sense. You don't want heifers fat, because the fatter they are, the harder they are, the harder they are to get them to breed. And a breeding heifer, the ultimate goal is to raise calves with, is to get them to raise calves with. That should be the number one goal. It shouldn't be to win the county fair. I mean, obviously everybody wants to win your shows, but the number one goal should be to have that cat have a cat, to have her have a calf. And by fattening them up like market steers, you're reducing that chance by a very large percentage, because when you fatten a heifer out, I don't know if a lot of people understand this, but when you fatten heifers out, you're not doing them any favors when it comes to breeding. You're actually taking away from their calf, because in order to maintain that body condition, which is much higher than it should be, they're actually taking away from that calf. And if you do get a calf out of them, which is, again, a much less chance of getting calves out of them if they're fatter, the calf's going to be a lot smaller. It's going to take away from the calf, instead of putting all that energy and all that, putting that feed and that energy into that calf and raising a good, healthy, large calves. You're going to actually that heifer is going to take a lot of that energy and that feed and that energy away from the calf to maintain her own condition, to maintain whatever, her own condition, whatever. And I'm not saying we need to starve these heifers either, but they need to be in a healthy body condition without, like I said, without being overdone. And there's a fine line there. And that's something that, as you go, you'll kind of understand. If you raise cattle, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. But the other thing, and this has been probably the most disturbing to me for a while, we're getting, trying to breed these animals for structural correctness. And we talk about, hear judges all the time talking about the structure of animals and stuff. But I'm kind of wondering if some of these judges understand what structure actually is, what a good quality, what a sound structure actually is. Because we've been trying to breed these animals for, straight, to be straight, especially on the back end, straighteners. We want a straight, nice straight line on the back end, especially on that back leg. Well, the problem is straight. You can overdo that and get too straight as well. There needs to be a little bit of set within that back leg. You need to be a little, you got to have a little bit of set within the front legs and the back legs, or that's, they walk up too straight. You're going to have stiff joints. I've actually got two of them right now in there that ones that I hadn't noticed too bad early on, but as they matured, they got a little straight, and it's something that I don't particularly like. They don't walk as well. They don't do as well. They're not quite as sound. I got one in there that's really, really good quality structure. And when you really see the difference, the contrast between her and the others, the other two especially, within that structure, you really understand and appreciate the true structural correctness. And a lot of times, you know, in years past, especially when I was thrown, the one that I'm talking about that's actually structurally correct, she would have been docked, whereas the others wouldn't have been so much. But the problem is, you know, when they're too straight, you get bigger joints, you get, you know, swelling within those joints. It's harder for them to walk, and it's something that makes it much more difficult for them to actually to live. And that's something that goes with both the steers and the heifers. You know, you want a good structure, and it seems to me that we're overbreeding the structure to the point where we're actually harming, you know, getting too much, you know, getting them too straight to the point where they're you know, from one extreme to the other, they're crippling them by breeding them too straight. And that's something that I think we really need to look at. I'm trying to think, it was I think a couple years ago, maybe it was last fall. I don't remember. I think it might have been last fall. We had I got together with a few people that in my area that kind of had the same concerns as me within in this regard, and we actually had a little did a little clinic for some of the kids around here about structural, you know, what we look for, you know, some of the things that we like to look for when we're picking out calves, and some of the things that we you know, that we try and look for when we're breeding, just so we can try and get a kind of help the kids out and kind of let them know, you know, what some of the things they need to be looking for are, to try and get some of this straightened out. And it's something that I think we're starting to see a few more people stand up and talk about a little bit more than we have in the past. And it's something that I think we need to stand up and talk about, because it's something that I don't think there's enough people standing up for, and you know, really actually trying to fix this problem that's been going on for a number of years. And I know a lot of the people that have been doing it, you know, that have been in this industry for a number of years, they're wanting to win, and the only way, you know, the best way to sell their calves especially is to, you know, to win, you know. So they're going to breed that way because they're trying to sell calves. It's a business decision. But the problem is, for show cattle, you know, that may be fine in a sense, but the biggest problem is when you get into commercial herd, you know, you get into commercial cattle, they're not going to be the better cattle. The show calves, the way they're wanting to breed the cattle now, the show calves especially, are not going to make good commercial cattle. They're not going to raise cows. They're not going to raise calves. They're not going to hold up in feedlots, you know, if they're steers. And it doesn't make sense to try and sell this false sense of this false identity, I guess you could say, within the show calf industry. And that's something that I really think we need to try and change, and probably try and get changed right away. And I hope more people stand up and actually talk about this, because this is a subject that I think is very important, because we're trying to help this next generation of farmers, and if we're getting to the point of, you know, within the show calf industry, a lot of these kids raising show calves are going to eventually start raising their commercial herds as well. And that's the problem, because we're starting to raise our commercial herds like our show calves. They're not going to be the quality of the cattle are going to go way downhill because they're not going to stand up in a commercial herd the way we breed show calves. So that's something that I think we need to stand up for, and it's something that I hope we get more conversation about within the near future, because it's something that I think desperately needs to change. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and share. And as always, thank you.